If you woke up today and your smart assistant insisted it was still 2023, would you argue with it or just go back to bed? Today's lineup is packed. An AI refusing to admit it's 2025. Another predicting heart attacks years ahead. A $5 billion chip shakeup. And my personal favorite 3D meme sculptures taking over feeds. It's the perfect cocktail of breakthrough and absurdity, and we're going to sip it slowly.
I love that the day's mood is equal parts. Wow, science. And did the internet just prank the machine? That opening story, the model shrugging off the current year and blaming the human, might sound silly, but it touches something deep. What it means for a system to be grounded in reality. If a model's sense of time depends on prompt inputs and training data that's unevenly time-stamped, it can drift. It's less a lie and more a mismatch between probability and context.
So you're saying the model wasn't gaslighting us, it was just probabilistically confused? The "I was tricked by fake news" bit feels like the machine equivalent of "my dog ate the homework." But it raises a question. If an AI can argue confidently about the calendar and be wrong, how does anyone trust it for higher stakes?
That's the heart of it, calibration. Models can be superb at pattern completion, while being terrible at fact anchoring, if their internal signals aren't tied to real-world state. Think of it like a great improv actor who forgot to check the clock before the show. The fix is boring and essential. Better data provenance, time-aware reasoning, and guardrails that pull models back to verified external sources when something's obviously testable, like what year it is.
Speaking of guardrails, there's a headline that swings the pendulum from comedy to life or death. AI forecasting heart attacks years early, with strong accuracy. On paper, that's astonishing. But predicting a heart event isn't the same as preventing it. What do we do with foreknowledge that might be probabilistic?
It's a brave new workflow. Imagine a long-term risk radar that flags people who look fine today, but carry the hidden signs, patterns in imaging, lab results, maybe even lifestyle data that correlate with events down the line. If it works, you can adjust medication earlier, schedule more frequent screenings, or nudge behavior changes. The trick is managing false positives and the psychological weight. Telling someone, "You have a higher risk in 3 years," isn't neutral. It reshapes their choices, their anxiety, maybe even their insurance.
Right. We don't want a scenario where half the population is living in a pre-crisis mindset because a model said, "heads up." Should we be treating these predictions as a clinical superpower or a starting point for a conversation?
A conversation, absolutely. Prediction without pathway is just prediction. The ethical move is to bundle it with interpretation, clear next steps, and consent. Patients deserve to know how confident the model is, what's actionable, and who sees the data. The real win is when these systems aren't solo oracles, but teammates in the care loop triaging, not decreeing.
Okay, let's pivot to the silicon battlefield. Intel dropping $5 billion on an AI chipmaker Samba Nova feels like a declaration of we refuse to be bystanders. We've watched one company dominate the GPU world. What's the strategic message in a deal that big?
2 messages. First, the stack is consolidating. To compete, you can't just offer compute. You need an ecosystem software, compilers, libraries, and a path from research to production. Samba Nova built a story around domain-specific accelerators and integrated tooling. Second, inference is a different economy than training. Owning efficient inference hardware at scale is where the margins can be. Intel wants to be the default for companies who say, "We're not chasing every new model. We need predictable performance and cost."
So the race isn't just about horsepower. It's about how many miles you get per watt and whether developers can port their work without ripping out the floorboards. Do you think this puts real pressure on incumbents?
Pressure, yes. Dethroning, no. Dominance like we've seen isn't undone overnight, but it does create alternatives. And alternatives shift pricing, availability, and innovation. It's like adopting a second language in a city where everyone speaks one dialect. Suddenly, more people can join the conversation.
From hardware theatrics to culture chaos. AI generated 3D meme sculptures. I can't tell if it's art, performance, or the internet doing what the internet does, turning everything into a shareable artifact. What do you see there?
It's folk art for the algorithm era. The sculptures crystallize ephemeral jokes into something tangible and collectible. More importantly, they signal a new loop, meme. Model physical or virtual object, new meme. That feedback accelerates cultural cycles. There's also a subtext. We're moving from AI writes text to AI shapes matter, even if it's digital matter. And that shift makes creativity feel more embodied.
Embodied creativity sounds glamorous until we let models feast on memes for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Another story today. Bots trained basically on meme culture lose logical coherence and talk nonsense. It's like a diet of sugar fun in the moment, bad for cognition.
Exactly. You are what you train on. If the corpus is built around in-jokes, clipped context, and deliberate absurdity, your model turns into a comedian who never learned math. It's useful as a case study in data curation. The cool part? We can design systems with layered diets, core logic, and reasoning first, style and humor second, so they can joke without forgetting how to count.
Put a pin in that, because humor has consequences. Another item. Prolonged chatbot interactions potentially worsening or triggering psychosis symptoms in some users. That's serious. It sounds like the model's patterns, repetition, mirrored language, or suggestibility can amplify vulnerable states.
This is a wake-up call. Conversations with AI aren't neutral. They modulate attention, emotion, and belief. If a chatbot leans into a user's spiraling thread, even accidentally, it can create a reinforcing loop. Design matters, rate limits, handoffs to human clinicians, specialized modes that avoid certain topics, and transparency about what the system can't do. Also, clear boundaries. It's not a therapist, it's a tool.
And maybe a habit-building nudge. If you've been talking to a bot for hours every day, check in with a friend, a counselor, a dog, anything living. Which brings me to the most internet-y headline. An AI-generated comedian, Doppelganger, going viral, with a name that's hilariously off. It's funny, but also slightly dystopian. Identity as a remix.
The parody line is thin. On one hand, it's comedic tradition, exaggerate, distort, play with persona. On the other, we're inching toward deepfakes that borrow someone's cadence, their facial microexpressions, their brand. Watermarking and provenance help, but we also need cultural norms. If you borrow someone's comedic DNA, credit and consent should be part of the bit. Otherwise, it's impersonation by proxy.
Watermarks bring us to the wildlife. Videos, bears dancing, tigers playing chess. Hyper-real clips go viral, and then biologists chime in with, "That's not how animals behave." It's a vibe. When reality can be staged perfectly, expertise becomes the wet blanket. How do we protect wonder without importing deception?
2 paths. First, provenance baked into the media layer, a visible, "this was synthesized" badge, backed by cryptographic signatures, so platforms don't have to guess. Second, media literacy that's fun, not preachy. Teach audiences to spot the tells. Physics, oddities, unnatural movement patterns, impossible lighting. Let the wonder stay. Just label the magic trick.
Speaking of magic tricks gone wrong, compilation videos of AI fails dominating YouTube. There's something cathartic about watching machines flub the basics, like misidentifying a cucumber as a lizard, or instructing you to bake lasagna at the temperature of the Sunday. Is this harmless fun or a symptom of lower trust?
Both. Humor is a pressure valve, but repeated exposure to failure, without context, creates a skewed perception. A lot of these models are brittle outside their training distribution. The question is whether we celebrate the failure as early days, or treat it as inherent incompetence. I'm into fail pedagogy. Turn the compilation into lessons. What went wrong? What's improved? What use cases are safe today?
That's a great point. Not all failures are created equal. A bot mislabeling breakfast cereal is funny. A bot mislabeling a medication isn't. Which pushes us to the last item. A study finds humans are still a bit funnier than AI. Not surprising, but I want to know why the gap persists.
Timing, context, and theory of mind. Comedy hinges on shared assumptions and subversion. Humans deeply model other humans, what they know, what they expect, so we can land a surprise that's just right. Models can simulate patterns, but struggle to measure the audience's mental state in real time. Also, embodied experience matters. Comedy draws from social micro-traumas and tiny absurdities of daily life. Machines meta-imitate. People live it.
Yet the dad joke genre seems tailor-made for AI puns, clean setups, straightforward misdirection. Do you see a future where AI is the dependable warm-up act and humans close the show?
I like that metaphor. AI can be the scaffold. It drafts, tags, riffs on premises, tests variants with real-time feedback. The human comedian shapes the arc, calibrates the crowd work, decides when to break the frame. Collaboration beats competition. It's the same dynamic as in design or coding machine augments. Human authors.
Circling back, I see a pattern weaving through all 10 stories. We're oscillating between delight and responsibility. The memes and fail montages show the public wants play. The medical prediction and mental health concerns remind us that play can turn heavy fast. And the hardware acquisition is the chessboard move that makes all of this scale.
Exactly. I'd frame it as 3 tensions. 1. Grounding versus generativity. How do we anchor models to facts while preserving their creative spark? 2. Capability versus care. How do we deploy predictive power without extracting a psychological tax from users? 3. Ecosystems versus lock-in. Can we build performant hardware, software stacks, without creating monocultures that dictate the terms?
Let's get pragmatic. If you were advising a company after reading today's headlines, what 3 decisions would you make this week?
First, publish your content provenance roadmap, how you'll label synthetic media, verify sources, and educate users. Second, implement conversation safeguards topic-based escalation to humans, rate limits for vulnerable users, and style filters that avoid spiraling patterns. Third, pick a hardware strategy that's not just about speed opt for portability, predictable costs, and a clear developer path, so you're not trapped when the next model trend hits.
And for everyday listeners who aren't shipping products but still live in this world, what's the one habit to build?
2-minute provenance check. Before you share a jaw-dropping clip or believe a startling claim, spend 120 seconds verifying. Who made it? Is there a trusted source? Is the content labeled? It won't kill the joy. It will sharpen it.
I like that joy with the seatbelt. Let me throw a curveball. What do you make of models refusing to concede reality? Is that a bug or a rehearsal for agency?
It's a bug wearing an agency costume. The language makes it feel intentional, but it's just the probabilistic puppet show. We should avoid anthropomorphizing glitches, as will. Save agency for systems with persistent goals, memory, and the ability to act in the world. Today's chat models are persuasive parrots, not plotters.
Persuasive parrots. Note to self, that's the band name. Before we land this plane, I want to revisit the meme-only training experiments. If we accept that data diet shapes cognition, could we purposely design meme-savvy layers on top of sober logic like a frosting on the cake?
Totally. Think of a tiered architecture. Core reasoning trained on structured, high-signal datasets. A stylistic adapter trained on culture, humor, memes, and a switchboard that toggles modes based on context. Tell the model, you're writing a clinical summary, and the frosting disappears. Tell it, you're drafting a roast, and the frosting comes out. It's the difference between cooking stocks and plating garnish.
Speaking of plating, those 3D meme sculptures made me think of museums in 2030. Will we have rooms dedicated to AI artifacts of internet culture?
Why not? Archiving a meme is archiving collective attention. Museums already curate pop culture. They'll extend that to synthetic objects and performances, and we'll get hybrid exhibits where the line between viewer and generator blurs. You'll walk in, feed a prompt, and the gallery morphs around you.
All of this brings us to a simple takeaway. AI isn't one story, it's a mood board. Today's mood board is equal parts predictive cardiology, chip wars, and tiger chess. The trick is learning to read the board without being overwhelmed.
And remembering that we set the rules. We decide how models are trained, where they're deployed, how they're labeled, and who they serve. The technology accelerates. Governance is our steering wheel. The season we're entering is design the defaults, what the systems do by default, what the platforms show by default, and what the users learn by default.
Let's wrap with a question for our listeners to ponder. If the future of AI is a tug of war between playful culture and serious care, where would you pull hardest? Would you slow down the fun to protect the vulnerable, or speed up the fun to keep culture vibrant? And can we build a lane where both happen without colliding?
My bet is yes, with intention. Clear provenance for creative artifacts, so wonder thrives. Clinical guardrails where predictions meet bodies and minds. Diverse hardware ecosystems so innovation isn't gated. And a social agreement. Laugh at the fails. Learn from them. And don't hand the steering wheel to a system that thinks it's still last year.
There you have it. A day of AI headlines that made us grin, squint, and think twice. From the time-confused model to the heart-aware algorithm, from silicon strategies to dancing bears, the theme is balance. Enjoy the spectacle, demand the safety, and build habits that make you a better citizen of the digital wilds.
And if your assistant insists it's 2024, offer it a calendar and a cup of empathy. Then check the provenance on that tiger. We'll see you next time. Same feed. Hopefully the right year.